That was upside down. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing my September TBR. Alright, before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, what is a romance book you're reading this month? Alright, so obligatory, oh my god, it's already September. But at the same time, I don't know why, I just felt like August lasted for forever. It's very possible it's due to the heat, but it seemed like the month that would never end. We're finally here. We're in September. We're heading into fall. I say, even though we are still constantly topping 100 degrees where I live, but you know, a girl can dream. So with that, I am so excited to start diving into some cozier, some darker stories. But apart from those plans, I also am going to be partaking in multiple readathons this month, which was unexpected, and yet both of them made my TBR grow so much more. I have no idea how I am possibly going to attempt to mood read around this giant TBR, but here's hoping I might manage to. We'll see. First, before we get into everything else, we have to return to my TBR jars. They have returned. I didn't do them last month because my best friends picked my books, but I'm very excited to get back to them, as well as a little nervous. So we're gonna start out with the digital TBR. Let's see, what are we gonna get? All right, here. That was upside down. One word title. Oh, that's a good one. That's very easy. Let me see what I can find. Okay, so I went to my Goodreads. I pulled up the first 5 books, which only have a one-word title. You know, I'm actually pretty much down for any of these, so I think I'm gonna make this really easy on myself and just do random number generator between 1 and 5. We're gonna generate 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 2. Cursed by Thomas Wheeler and illustrated by Frank Miller. All right, so for a one-word title, I am going to be reading Cursed by, who was it again? Thomas Wheeler. All I know about this is that it is a King Arthur retelling in which a young girl is tasked with trying to reunite the sword with a sorcerer, I think, and somehow it's gonna like save her village or something. I know it was turned into a Netflix series. It also does not have the best rating on Goodreads, but I saw the cover of this book years ago and was intrigued by it. Also the fact that illustrations by Frank Miller, I do like Frank Miller, so I'm intrigued to see the little bits of art he has in here. Hopefully I can get a physical copy of this from my library. All right, so one book down, one that I was not anticipating, but a book. Next, onto my physical jar. Let's see what book I'm gonna be reading from my physical shelves. All right, let's go with this one. A Book Everyone Talks About. Ooh, that's a good one. I have a lot that this could work for, a lot. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I've been wanting to read Legends and Lattes for months now, and I recently figured out a reason to read it a little bit sooner. Here's hoping I can buddy read it with Aoife like we were planning. Hopefully she will not mind. If you're unaware, if you've been living under a rock and somehow haven't heard about this book, basically this is set in a world very reminiscent to Dungeons and Dragons, in which we are following a orc who has retired from raiding, and she ends up opening the first coffee shop set in this world. I believe she ends up hiring a succubus to work for her, and there's a bit of a sapphic romance between those two. I've heard some not great things, but the people who've praised this tell you how it's just cozy, low-stakes fantasy, and I do really enjoy those things. So here's hoping I will adore this. I've been wanting to get to it anyway, so this is a perfect excuse. After that, I do have a arc which I need to get read this month, which is Rouge by Mona Wad. I was originally planning to read it last month, but that didn't happen. This is supposed to be some sort of like a Snow White retelling, talking about like the cult of beauty. I believe we are following a woman who ends up visiting this spa that her mother was a member of, and it's this like very a weird, experimental, very out there, obsessed with beauty standards institution. I'm not really sure. It's Mona Awad, so I know it's gonna be really weird. It probably will have some very good commentary going on in it, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to get into it. I didn't make time for it last month, but I have to this month for video's sake. Then for book clubs, I am planning to partake in Jan's Full Moon book club like I do most months. This month we are reading The Book Eaters by Sonia Dean. I've been meaning to pick this up for a while now. Following this woman who is a part of a society in which they eat books. However, her child ends up becoming a soul eater or a mind eater. That sounds sort of right. I'm not really sure. It seemed really intriguing from what I've heard about it though, and the title alone was enough to make me intrigued and add it to my TBR, so I'm finally gonna get around to that one. I'm also planning to partake in the Horror Hideout book club this month, which is focusing on horror books written by women. However, I don't think the September book has been announced when I am filming this, so we'll see what that is, but I am trying to focus more on horror, seeing as how I've kind of realized about myself that I tend to enjoy horror books more than thrillers. I say that like I don't still have a bunch of thrillers on my shelves. Now, starting into the readathons. First up, I'm going to be partaking in Squash That Series, who is doing a 24 and 48 hour readathon in September, which I am very excited and apprehensive to see where this goes. I'm not always the best at doing 24-hour readathons, but hopefully finishing out some series will be enough to kind of encourage me to stay on track. They were encouraging two possible routes, either focusing on series you haven't touched in a while, or trying to get as far as possible in a single series. Seeing as how I've been trying to work on my series this year, that's been a big goal of mine. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the prior. There are definitely a few that I am really hoping I can finish out and just officially mark those off my series tracker. We'll see if that happens. I say that though, the first one will not be completing a series, it's just catching me up for the time being. Troy by Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry's Greek mythology retellings are phenomenal. This series is just so entertaining. Every single one of them is so well put together, and then, I mean, you have to listen to all the audiobooks of them because Fry reads them himself, and he brings every single character to life. He stays true to the stories, but he also makes them incredibly entertaining. This one, obviously, with the title of Troy, is going to be focusing mainly on the Trojan War, I believe, so I'm very, very excited to get into this and see how he retells some of these stories, because there are some very ridiculous ones in here. I don't think the next one is supposed to come out until sometime in 2024, so this will catch me up for the time being at least. A series I would love to try and finish though in this is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. This is like book 0, I guess, in the Practical Magic series. This is the oldest one where we are following the original Owen's family member, I believe. And then we're seeing how the curse has plagued this family for the rest of the books. So this is 0. I also have the one that comes after Practical Magic. I want to say it's the Book of Magic. And then with those two, I will officially finish out that series. I've been working on that one for years. I haven't touched this one in a while, but I've always wanted to come back to it. These are also just like very easygoing, cozy, low stakes, feminist witchy stories. I'm intrigued to see how she does with this historical setting. I think the Rules of Magic was like set in the 60s or 70s, but this is in the 1600s, so bit of a change there. I would also love to listen to the audiobook of Some Shall Break by Ellie Marney, which is sequel to None Shall Sleep, basically following these two young people who end up they're interviewing young serial killers for the FBI, but it's set in, I want to say it's the 80s, I'm pretty sure. I did enjoy the first one. The historical vibes were very fantastic. The Criminal Minds meets Silence of the Lambs energy was also just totally my bag. So I'm very intrigued to see how the author continues this story. Also, if I could finally get around to volume 5 of Fence by 𝗖cie viņš, that would be fantastic. I keep going back and forth on whether or not I want to read the novelizations in this series, because technically they are not written by 𝗖cie viņš. They are written by another author. However, they are considered canon stories, but they're like YA contemporaries, and I don't really tend to read those anymore just because the majority of the time they feel really immature and I just can't get invested. Whereas the graphic novel format works a lot better for this sort of a setup. We'll see if I decide to pick those up or not. I might just stick with the graphic novel. That's my list of hopefuls I really, really, really want to get done. There's possibilities that I might try and read some others, like maybe I could work on my manga series, Soul Eater, or I could also continue, say, Murderbot, the Tita Rosie series, but we'll figure it out. I don't want to give myself a really ambitious TBR because it's only 24 hours. And on one hand, that's way more time than you think, but on the other hand, that's a lot less time than you think. I'm also planning to partake in RomComathon. I really enjoy an excuse to read a bunch of rom-com stories. So yeah, when this was announced, I had to grab onto it. The theme for this one is based around back to school. They have a list of tropes that you can try and hit, and if you complete all of them, I think you graduate from Smut University as valedictorian. So of course, my overambitious ass is gonna try and do it. First up though, the group read is actually Teach Me by 𝗖cie, which I think is following a teacher who doesn't want to like the new teacher at her school because he was given a job that she was hoping for. But of course, you know, he's incredibly likable and sparks into flying. I'm intrigued to pick that one up. 𝗖cie is an author I didn't have the best experience with prior, but a lot of her books still intrigue me, so we'll see. As for the tropes, starting at the top is fake dating, which is not my favorite. But I do have to read Honey and Spice by Belu Babalola for a video. And this is fake dating. I believe this is following a woman who is a host for a radio show at her university, and she rags on this guy who's known around the campus as a bit of a Lothario. Unfortunately for her, she is seen kissing him at a party, and so in order to try and save a little bit of her pride as well as her reputation, she convinces him to do a fake dating scheme with her, but she doesn't really like him. So, you know, there's lots of tension there. I've heard so many 5-star ratings for this, which is really the reason why I bought it, because, like, even though it's fake dating, and that's not my fave, so many people love this. So I'm very hopeful that this will be the case where I actually don't mind the trope. It's very rare that that happens, but here's hoping. Technically, I think this could also count for the next trope, which is enemies to lovers. But I do also have another book in mind for it. That one is Getting Schooled by Christina C. Jones. I've been meaning to start this series for forever. Recently, Ray at Bookmark Chronicles did a review of the entire series, and she just had so many positive things to say that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm finally gonna do it. I'm finally gonna start into this series. This one, I believe, is following a TA who is constantly bashing heads with one of her older students who is ex-military, but at some point she ends up having to like tutor him or something for the class, and you know, maybe he's not as bad as she thought he was. And I'm very intrigued about it. Like I said, I've pretty much only heard positive things about this author's work. Here I am, finally trying to start into the series. This one could also count for Grumpy Sunshine according to the tags on Goodreads, so I'm gonna make that work. For Second Chance though, which is one of my favorites, I am also going to be returning to a favorite author with Totally Folked by Penny Reid. This is set in the same universe as her Winston Brothers series. I am sure you are so tired of hearing me talk about that series, but I do love it. And this one, I believe, is following Jackson, who is the older brother to the main character of the first book. He is a deputy who is kind of a pain in the ass for a lot of the series, but eventually you learn he's a pain in the ass, but he is actually a decent guy. And this one, I think, is following him when he runs back into a woman who he had a one-night stand with. And, you know, they have a lot of great chemistry. I am very excited to get back to this setting as well as Penny Reid's work because it is so addicting. This is also the start in another spin-off series. Finally, for both sports romance as well as friends to lovers, I'm going to be reading The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. This is following a woman who is up for a competition at some sort of an online publication, and I think she and her competitor are both reviewing different workout apps. However, once she ends up meeting with the coach for the app, she and he really hit it off, but they really shouldn't be dating. However, it's getting harder and harder to ignore that chemistry, ignore that attraction. I believe Kat read this when we were on vacation, and she did say positive things about it. Denise Williams is an author who I have many of her books on my TBR, so I'll finally be starting into some of her work here. Okay, and on that note, I should be done, right? Yeah, no, it's me, of course I'm not. In order to officially round out a video, I need to read The Girls by Emma Cline, which I believe is a fictionalized telling of the Manson family, essentially. It is set in California, summertime, 60s, and we are following a young girl who ends up, I believe, getting enthralled with, Suzanne, who is a part of a circle with a man who is a charismatic leader. I've been wanting to check this out for years now. It's been on my TBR for quite a while, and I'm finally gonna do it. I'm finally gonna get around to it, I hope. Another one that I've been saying for so long, I was gonna read this. I was gonna pick up this series because I'm just gonna love it. I'm finally gonna try The City of Brass by 𝗖cie viņš𝘁𝘁. It has taken me so freaking long. It's ridiculous. I can't believe it. I feel like this has kind of had a resurgence lately. I've seen a lot of people recently picking it up for the first time, so I'm gonna ride that wave. This was on my 5-star predictions list last year, and I still have yet to read it. In this one, I believe we are following a young woman who is a thief in Cairo. However, after stealing something, she ends up accidentally summoning a jinn who takes her to his city, only to discover that she too has jinn blood. That's all I really know. I've heard so many positive things about this. The characters, the world, the politics going on, all of it makes me so intrigued. I've been meaning to start this series for so long. And then finally is one that is actually pretty new to my shelves, and I am hoping I can knock it off really quickly. Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. I just recently read The Hacienda by her for the Full Moon Readathon. Really enjoyed majority of it. I did love the writing style. The ending left a little to be desired, so I'm hoping to see if perhaps Cañas sticks landing in this one. Honestly, I don't know a ton. The blurb that got me to pick it up from Book of the Month was vampires and vaqueros face off on the Mexican-Texas border in the supernatural western. I'm on board. You got me. You hooked me. What a combo. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Not to mention the gothic writing, perfect for fall time. So yeah, that's a really light TBR. And I'm definitely not gonna get much mood reading in this month, I don't think. Who am I? So that's it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!